Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. What a weekend. You're a Michigan fan. You had a great weekend. Great weekend on the ice, great weekend on the hardwood. We're ready to talk about all of it. As we always do, coming your way 3 times a week at 2 o'clock, and it's fabulous to be here. And, I had a great weekend. I watched so much basketball and hockey, and now I'm here to talk about it all. I hear coaches talk about football players, and they have to be tough, and you get that. It's a contact sport. You also need to be tough if you're going to watch 48 hours of basketball over 4 days. It's a grind. It is a challenge, and there's a certain toughness that is involved. And, sleep deprivation, you're getting late, who knows what you're doing leading up to that 9:45 tip, but there are times over the last couple of days where I was thinking, I would never admit this, but I was thinking I might be basketballed out for the night. And then I'm looking, I was like, wait a second, there's still 2 or 3 more games that they're going to play. How am I going to get I need a 3rd or 4th win. And at halftime of the Alabama-Texas Tech game, important game, this is going to see who Michigan's going to play. Yeah, Alabama was 24 at the half, and I felt comfortable that it was going to be the Crimson Tide. And I just said, there's no reason for me to just be sitting here unless it's just for, the getting props. Say, I watched to the last second. No, I think I did the right thing and went off the bed. And Alabama did win, and now that's who Michigan is going to play, as in the second round. So we'll talk about the basketball for sure. Hockey, what a Saturday night for the Wolverines. What a game that they had. It was fabulous. Wait a second, it was a Friday, Saturday. It's all running together now. What a great weekend they had, being able to win the Big Ten tournament. We'll talk about that one. A Michigan great passes away. Give you my thoughts on that. But we're starting with Michigan in the Sweet 16. And we see where they're at right now. Michigan is playing Alabama at the United Center, where Michigan just played 3 games 2 weeks ago. Not this last. Wait a second. Last week. So, they've been here and they're familiar with the gym. How much that helps them, I don't know. It's not going to hurt them to have played 3 games in the United Center and now have to go back there and potentially play 2 more before they might be able to just mosey on over to Indy. That's nice. It's nice for the team and it's nice for the fans. You think about the travel now if you're going to these games. Windy City, back home, down to Indy. That would be ideal. That's what we're thinking right now. But Michigan, a big 10.5 point favorite against the Crimson Tide. And, it's going to be a 7:30 tip now. Each and every opponent I've found watching and seeing how people are absorbing all of this over on the Maize and Blue Review. There's some people, if you talk about the other teams, are, whoa, man, this team's pretty good. They're all pretty good now, but, you got people, don't act like we're going to lose, or, hey, wait a second. Alabama, that if you watched them last night, they didn't have their second best scorer, Smokey Holloway, who was suspended, and I don't think he's going to play against Michigan. It would be surprising following that court situation or the situation with having over 2 pounds of pot in his house. Doesn't look like he's going to play. Maybe next year. for him, but not coming up this Friday. They didn't need him last night, and they look like a pretty dangerous team dismantling Texas Tech the way that they did, up 24 at the half, and they canned 11 triples by the break, and so it was over then. Ended up with 19 from downtown in the game against the Red Raiders, and that's how they're sitting here now as the 4 seed taking on the 1 seed Michigan. So you correctly, you don't need to dive too far into the numbers. Say how Michigan does guarding the Tide out of the 3-point line or running them off the 3-point line, and they get them to shoot under, whatever, 35%. Can they keep them under double figures from downtown? And maybe Michigan, it's like St. Louis, they were making some threes, but it didn't matter. And sometimes it doesn't matter. You get a team like Michigan and they're going like they were over the weekend. They're not going to be stopped. And that's what was going down with Michigan against St. Louis. And it could be the way that the things go down against Alabama. So then they could get to the Elite Eight to play the winner of Tennessee, who looked really good against Virginia, and Iowa State, who lost maybe their best player. I don't know. The big shooter might be their best player, but they had their second best player, who was Joshua Jefferson, who was out, whether it's an ankle or knee. I'm not sure which one. I think they said a knee, but I had a friend texting me saying, "Oh, it's an ankle." Okay. He's down. I don't know if he's going to be available. I've always thought that you can go a game and make up for it without one of your very best players. But after one game, well, then it's going to start showing. So I think that about both Alabama and Iowa State. You saw it from Texas Tech. They didn't have Toppin, and they just didn't have the firepower to stay with the Tide. Plus, the Tide was going crazy from downtown. But I think both Bama and Iowa State, I would not be surprised, is what I'm saying here, if it's going to be Tennessee if you don't have Jefferson, even though Iowa State is a 4.5-point favorite against the Vols. That's my read looking at the Midwest as we now look towards next weekend in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight and the possibility of Michigan getting to the Final Four. The idea was for Michigan to get to the Final Four and then get to Monday, April the 8th and win it all. We've watched this team all year long. They started out great. They had that 10-game run that was tremendous, 11-13. They hit a little bit of a dip, but then they came back and won an impressive run. And, this team, they have dropped a few games, but not many. And if you're enjoying this ride, you're doing it right. That's what's going on. If you're upset at all, it can't be about Michigan basketball. Everything with Michigan basketball, you should feel great about. They put on a performance on against St. Louis that was, not perfect, but it was pretty close. They played the way you want to play if you want to win a championship. That's what you look like, and that's the way you want to continue that playing. Their best players were their best players. They look very dangerous, and you should feel great about their chances of beating both Alabama and whoever it's going to be, Tennessee or Iowa State. And then, you're thinking Arizona. We look down the line and think that. But, Final Four, here we come. That's the idea. And I don't see any reason that Michigan, they're favored to get there. And the way they're playing, I think they should get there. That's where I'm sitting, and that's where I'm at when it comes down to the Maize and Blue review. Let's take some of the feedback. Before I do that, I do want to tell you that you want to continue all this Michigan. The spring practice is going on. There's some tidbits coming out about what's going on. They had the first padded practice yesterday. Michigan did. And you want to know what's going on there. You can get the latest. That's one of the big reasons that you Subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review, football intel, recruiting intel, basketball, same thing, hockey as it goes. And right now, you get an ultimate fan bundle. That means you get On Three, you get Rivals, and you get the Maize and Blue Review, all in this ultimate fan bundle and 50% off. Head on over to on3.com and subscribe with the Maize and Blue Review. That's how it's done. Let's get to some of the feedback here. Smash leading off with the Dominican LeBron taking over. Now, it was Namari Burnett who said that in the press conference. I don't remember what game it was, but it was very, very early in the season. Game 1, game 2, game 3, one of those. And it was LJ Kaysen, and someone asked him who he compared Yaxel Lindenborg to. And Kaysen said, LeBron James. And I remember thinking, LeBron James, huh? And now here we are talking about LeBron James and Yax again. And, you're a Detroit sports fan. You don't really like LeBron James, it's like, Jordan before him, but you can respect his game. And I don't think we're talking about, 2006 LeBron James and Yax, and I don't know if we're talking about the 41-year-old LeBron James, but a 35-year-old LeBron James and Yax. I think the size, the ability to handle the ball in the open floor, being able to throw it down, I see a little bit of that with Yax and King James. Smash excited about the women as well. Yeah, I know they've got it going on. Nothing wrong with keeping that going. Here's Ferris talking about all of the Big Ten teams: Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, and Iowa, Nebraska. We're going to play each other all in the Sweet 16. Nothing from Ohio. And there you go. Yeah. Well, if you root for the Big Ten, some people, that used to be a thing. And then 2023 left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths that the conference wasn't backing Michigan. So a lot of people said, I'm never rooting for all these teams. I see that sentiment a lot. And, to me, I don't know. It seemed like in football, I mostly will watch a Big Ten game over another game for the familiarity. And so, yeah, I think there's a little tendency to say, yeah, why not? The Big Ten props up the conference. I do remember when the SEC was winning championship after championship, Florida State got in there 1-1 with Jameis Winston as their quarterback. But SEC was dominating so much when Ohio State played Oregon. To say, I was thinking, it might not be that bad just to get the monkey off the Big Ten's back. And of course, Oregon was going to, could have, it was the same thing. But he's having the Big Ten just thinking, hey, they can do it. So, it's weird thinking about rooting for Ohio State. It doesn't happen very often. I bet Ohio State in their game against TCU, and I don't know how many times I got to take it. You get smacked down. I try to separate. You should if you're gambling, and you can just have fun, and so you don't care. So you just don't. You never got to bet Ohio State. I can understand that, but I looked, and there was this statistical guy who I was watching, and he had all of the numbers and the graphs and the abacus, and he was looking at it, and to him, the biggest disparity. And when you put the point spread in there, the lock for him was Ohio State over TCU. He was looking at the Ken Pom numbers. It was the biggest disparity. And, I was just, all right, I'm in. I went. And then, they lost. And so it was like, so much for all of those numbers and everything else that guy was throwing up. Under Par says, it was fantastic to watch Yax perform like that again. Man, that was fun. I agree. It was. It was fun. Having a great player play like a great player and look like he's 100% healthy. We recall coming out of the Big Ten tournament is he's got a back injury. Something's wrong with him, and sure. I mean, that's what we do. If you see a guy that's fabulous that can take over games, then he's not taking over games at all. And what's going on? But yeah, Yax is back if he had ever gone anywhere. So that's it. Smash noticing, the foliage in the picture here. I moved to this. We have this auxiliary room in the house, and what it really, it's kind of a junk room. It was, but it was also an atrium. It's got a big window over there, and I had a bunch of plants in front of it. Take a couple of the plants and put them in the screenshot. Let's do it. Let's go. What plant guy? No, that's it. Michigan, Alabama. Was that what the rankings were in the Rose Bowl? That's that. I think that sounds right when they made the Final Four. I think you're onto something there. Vi Kent. It's been a minute since we've seen him. He says, I'm normally in bed by 9, but I stayed up past midnight Thursday through Sunday. Couldn't shut it down. Well, I get it. So once in a while you do it. Sambo is asking if I think it's time to move the 3-point line back to 40 feet or so. I feel like the 3-pointers are too easy now in college and the NBA. Well, they've continued to move it back. You can't move it any further back on the sides. I mean, the short corner, they only have I've got my feet or my hands about a foot apart, but there's not that much room over there. So could they eliminate the short corner and make it a little bit? You could continue to do that. The range is the effortlessness that these guys shoot it with from outside is really in the distance that they're able to do it. It is pretty amazing how they've been able to do that. And, you see, it was Cadeau, one of his, maybe it was the first couple. He's taking it from 26, 27 feet. He's firing it up. Cadeau had a great game. I thought it was his best game, maybe in a Michigan uniform against the Billikens, but he'll throw it in. I'm back to the question: could they move it back like the college line to where the NBA line is, and move the NBA line back a little bit? I think that's something that you could look at for sure. And then would they eliminate the corner? Now, what they could do is they could make the court bigger on the sides, so then you could move. You still could have a corner 3. I know that's extra wood panels. That's a lot of money. You got 300. That's probably not. That's probably not going to happen. So moving it back a little bit, if they keep it, like I said, you can't move it too much over in the short corner. And if they don't eliminate that, and then they have it, and then it just keeps going out, then everyone's going to be taking those short corner 3s. I know I'm thinking about it. I said, yes, I think they should move it back. Under par says U of M shot great in Buffalo. It would be nice to continue that percentage back in Chicago. Yeah, that's right. Shooting well, being in flow. The funny thing, it's like play calling, shooting well and play calling. When I've watched, whether it was Howard in the first half or at times against St. Louis, I'm watching, there's a continuing, a live game thread over on the Maize and Blue Review. And when the other team makes a couple, you'll see people say, they got to guard the 3. But, you'll watch the 3, and a lot of times you can get 3s, and then it's just coming down. Can a guy make or miss it? And sometimes I see guys, they're wide open, and they're missing it. Is, well, is Michigan really playing good defense here or not? The best way to keep down 3-point shooting teams is not allowing them to shoot threes. Obviously, you don't want them to have wide open threes. You don't want them to be catch and shoot. Catch and shoot is easier. You hear a lot of this now, and you might wonder why. A catch and shoot is a lot easier. Well, your feet are set, and you got it right in your pocket, a shooting pocket. They throw it to you, and it's up. It's more difficult to shoot a three on the move, setting yourself up. It's more difficult to shoot anywhere on the move, even if you're stopping, not just throwing it up while you're moving, but because you have to, you're not set. So even that's, you can stop and do a step back. Those step backs are more difficult than a catch and shoot. So not allowing a catch and shoot, the defense, I've got tied on my mind and I'm shooting threes, but you're right. My point was about play calling in football and shooting in college basketball. There's a rhythm, there's a flow, there's a lot of things that go into it, but when we're watching it as fans, you see, big chunk play, good play call. And then next thing you know, you get an 8-yard run. Nice play call. There's this rhythm, and then there's this flow for an offensive play call. Offense is the same thing. You hit a couple shots, you get a three, and you're like, oh, they're really sharing the ball. This is the way it looks, the way it feels. We're going to get to hockey coming up. It's good to see Ripstar. I was wondering, there was a point, I'm sitting there, I'm like, is Ripstar going to make it through the weekend? There's so much happening. John, you don't have to you got Alabama. You've got the Tide. They will be there. Welcome to the jungle. There you go. I like it. I'm in. That's it. I don't understand that. I don't understand. What's this? Guys arguing with each other. Will Michigan offer May a new contract to make sure he is a top paid coach? I am going to say absolutely. Absolutely. Is it a little premature now because you get bounced out of the Sweet 16 and you feel like you need to, that's not going to be a fun thing. But I'm not thinking about them getting bounced out of it. I'll tell you that if they make the Final Four, he can pretty much ask for whatever he wants. Obviously, if he wins it, Award just needs to give him the blank check and tell his representative, look, go ahead, just fill it out. Whatever you want to do, fill it out. Final Four, it's almost like that. So, they get 2 games before it's just almost a blank check type situation. But, yeah, I think that's going to happen. The mansion, the auxiliary room. This is an old house. So, there it is. Hadley. How many Big Ten teams do I think make it to play Saturday and Sunday? Well, we know either Nebraska or Iowa is going to. Michigan, I believe, is going to win this game coming up. So there's 2 of them for you. Michigan State, I think that they're going down. So they're the one that I am not sure about. And what's this? Is John and company, you guys are treating Michigan fans to the Chop House? That sounds fun. Eliminate threes from the side. Could happen. Okay, we're getting back here. See if I like John Schertz. Do I think he will be offered a Big Ten coaching job? Schertz was on a list. I had a list of about 12 coaches when the Michigan job was open. Dusty May was on that list, but so was Schertz. I liked him. And the way St. Louis plays, yeah, I see him getting bumped up. That's for sure. Under Par says, I saw a post that UNC will be calling Dusty after they fire their coach. Michigan better keep him happy. Yeah, well, if you're a big time program and Hubert Davis, when they asked him afterward, what happened in all of this, and he was like, I don't know. It's a little too early for all. No, you got to come up with a little better answer than that. But I think he probably knew that he's he's on his way out. I've had enough of this love fest of Dan Hurley and Tom Izzo. Of these guys patting each other on the back and telling each other, how awesome they both are. Well, it's great. Great. I've had enough of that one. So my point is that, yeah, if I was a basketball team out there that was serious about winning, I would be thinking about making a big run at Dusty. And if I was Michigan, I would expect that to happen. And I would already be in contact with his agent and saying, I don't know what, I don't think that the Ward's already saying to his agent, whatever you want, you can have. But I do think he's saying, look, we understand the situation here. I mean, if you're in the catbird seat, everybody's going to want you. We want you. So that's what's going on there. Winter sports swept. Ohio State doesn't get any better than that. I think you're right. I mentioned, so I have this Borg that you can see that's on the shelves in the back. I mentioned a young lady on St. Patrick's Day who had the Borg, and here she is. Here's her Borg. And her I guess I don't know if that's penmanship. If you're just right, it's just her writing is a little clearer than mine. She got a little like stick figure of yaks dunking with her Borg, but she's a smart young lady. I like what she's got going on here with the Lendeborg. Any Lendeborgs, I'm down with. So there's that. Let's now go to hockey, and there it is. How about Michigan hockey? I was going to play some music. I don't really have any stuff to play here, but they get in. They were always going to be in the Frozen Four, the NCAA tournament, but they get in and win the Big Ten tournament again as a 2 seed, but the first time at the Yost Ice Arena, and it was a great game. And then Michigan poured it on in the third period, and then the scene afterwards. I know you celebrate hockey celebrations. I think because the Stanley Cup is the best trophy in all of sports, probably. So we're used to that. And then you're on blades, so you skate your trophy around. It tends to just make these great celebrations. And Yost had a great celebration, all of them, all the way through. I took all of that in. I thought it was, these guys enjoyed themselves. They skated around. They had their trophies. Brandon Arado, listening to him talk about the pride and the emotion and everything down there, standing on his bench, talking and doing a post-game interview. It was fabulous. The locker room celebration, that was cool too. So all the way through it now, they're ready. And it has been since they won in 95 and then came back and did it in 98. So it's a long time. They're looking for their first national championship in the 21st century, and they are primed and set to play for this. They've got the perfect, you have the 1 seed, and do they have the goaltender? Check. Ivan Kovic. They have it. Do they have the team out in front of Ivan Kovic? They've got the number 1 offense in the league, the number 1 power play in the league. They've got snipers all over the place, led by the Big Ten Player of the Year in TJ Hughes. Those are no small things. They've got 3 pairs of defensemen that you can go all the way through. Duke is tremendous. And, they've got size, they can move the puck, they've got everything, and the coaching is there as well. So it's all there for Michigan to win it all. And if I'm filling out a bracket, I am putting Michigan in Las Vegas, and I'm putting Michigan State also in Las Vegas. And I would not be surprised if it was Michigan against Michigan State for everything. They have been the best two teams all year long. I know you get into one and dones, anything can happen. So, but there you go. I'm thinking it's going to be Michigan State. GDSPE laying some information on about Bentley. Honestly, before I saw Michigan's draw, if somebody said, "Is there a Bentley College?" I would have said, "I've never heard of that. Never heard of Bentley College." So obviously, I didn't know they had a hockey team. When I lived in Livonia, there was a Bentley High School, but they closed it the year that I started. I was not going to Bentley, but a lot of we got a lot of the Bentley overflow. But there was a basketball court behind Bentley, even after it closed. And for a good 5 years, it was the best basketball court in Southeast Michigan. Always could get in there, always could go. I think somebody, I don't know if I wasn't around. I think somebody got shot or somebody at least fired a gun. And then they took the rims down. And then that was it for Bentley. I wasn't around that summer that happened, luckily. But yeah, Bentley. The Bentley Falcons out of Waltham, Massachusetts. I'm not even going to double check your work. It sounds too good to be true. It comes down to that. I am in. How about Vegas? Let's go. Let's go to Vegas. Let's do it. So, yeah, and the hockey team, they are also playing on Friday. That's when Michigan plays basketball. So, but they're at different times at least. Could be a little bit of the hockey starts at 5:30. Basketball starts at 7:35. Will the hockey game be over by the time basketball starts? Almost. So hopefully Michigan's hockey has, I'll say, a 4-0 lead with 10 minutes to go, and you feel comfortable to move it down. If you have the four spots, you're good there, but maybe you put the hockey down into the smaller TV with the 4-0 lead. You don't want any 2-2 type situation, any kind of overtime situations that is going to bleed into basketball and then make for a dicey situation against Bentley. So you don't want that. And the draw, Michigan just took care of Penn State. Minnesota Duluth. I think the last time Michigan made the championship game, they played against Minnesota Duluth, and I believe that's the one where Michigan scored the game-winning goal in overtime, only to have it waved off because the referee blew the whistle because he lost sight of the puck. There wasn't a lot of people crashing the net or anything. He lost sight of the puck because it was going through the goaltender's legs. That was one of the worst calls, and I believe that was Duluth. So they'll play one of those teams. And in the bottom, is Western the defending champs? I believe so. Minnesota State, Denver, Cornell. I'll pull for Western Michigan. I'd like to see, I'm not pulling for Penn State. I want to see, I don't care. I don't care if it's Duluth or Penn State, but I'll pick Penn State. And then I would like to see Western in the Frozen Four. Michigan against Western. Down on this other side, Quinnipiac, Providence. I don't have a strong feel there. Merrimack, North Dakota. I like North Dakota. I don't think they're the Fighting Sioux anymore. What are they? The Falcons or something? They're probably not the Falcons. The North Dakota Fighting Hawks. That's my final answer. Fighting Hawks, if there is such a thing. I'll take North Dakota there. And then, like I said, I'll take Michigan State. However, there is Wisconsin. And it's not selfish, but I did go to Madison this year to call the Michigan-Wisconsin series. So could we get, if it came to Wisconsin, Michigan State to go to the Frozen Four, because I went to Madison this year, I want Wisconsin. Sorry, Michigan State. Let's get Michigan, Western Michigan, North Dakota, and Wisconsin in the Frozen Four. How much has Dennis lost betting so far during March Madness? The real answer is not very much, although I would say $100. I did sign up, the gymnast, Livy Dunn had hey, why don't you sign up for and get, the old bet $5 and get 200. I've done that. I think we've all, people that have gambled, you get in there, you do that. It's nice. What I thought happened though, is that I bet my $5 on one of the play-in games on a team that I knew nothing about. I don't even remember what the team's name was, and they got blown out. And so then I thought, well, I'm not getting it. I thought I had to win that $5 to get the $200 bonuses. I think that's how all of the other ones worked. I don't remember. I'm not 100% sure of that, but that's what I thought. So I was just going to come back, and I thought, well, I deposited $10. I put $5 and I lost. Let me just throw this next $5 down. But then the funny thing is they said, here you go. You've got 200. And the interesting thing about the 200 is that they didn't have some of the other ones, you had to bet $25 or $50 increments, which, makes it some pretty exciting games. That's not how this one worked. I could bet whatever I wanted. So I started betting. I think I lost the first 6 bets that I made, but I was only betting $5. Crazy parlay for $3. And, I lost them all, but I was only down 20 of their, given money. So then I went into yesterday and I looked and I needed to spend it all within 7 days. So I'm like, all right, I'm cranking it up. And so I had 20 on Purdue. I had 20 on Tech. I had money all over the place. The long and short of it is that I invested $10. I lost all kinds of games, but I won over $100. Now with, I think I could just cash that out. So if that answers your question, I lost a lot, but I was able to somehow still come out with $100. Why can't Michigan 3-1-1 against Penn State this year? And that's right. They lost in the shootout, didn't they? That's it. Dennis lost a couple days of groceries. My wife went to, I don't know where she went, but she bought 5. She came, I guess she's like, I spent $500. I'm like, $500 for groceries? Got a lot of good stuff. I knew this one was coming. I have a Wisconsin shirt, so he wants the Badgers to win. I do have a Wisconsin shirt. That's a Wisconsin basketball shirt. Here's some more questions that we're taking. Which potential NBA lottery prospect has impressed you the most so far in March Madness? Well, I have been impressed since this summer with AJ DeBonsa. In this tournament, Darius Acuff out of Detroit plays for Arkansas. Everybody likes him. I really like Peterson too from Kansas, but he's a Kawhi Leonard-y in college, in that I don't know you don't know if he is going to be one of these guys who plays a game or two and then is load managing for a month or two. He's got, there's more than vibes. I mean, it's there. but he said he's incredible to watch. So I don't know. DeBonta had one play. BYU lost. He had one play where he drove and then swung the ball over his back shoulder, threw this dunk down where he looked like Kobe. And so he's going to be the number one pick. DeBonta is going number one. Acuff is great at 2. I don't know. Boozer, who looked like he was in line to be maybe the number one overall pick. I think Acuff has moved in front of him. So I think it's DeBonta, Acuff, Boozer. Those 3 right now. Those are the ones that look like if I had to put a bet down on how the first 3 picks would go off the board, that's how I would do it. Smash says, I got hoodwinked so we all could save money. Reminder, don't bet on things you cannot control. Well, then don't bet at all because, I mean, even if you're playing poker, I guess you can control that a little bit. You can control which side that you pick. So, I mean, but I am going to overall agree with you. I follow college basketball closer than anything, and it's the worst for me. I have the worst. I was going to say luck, but it's not. I have I do the worst in picking college basketball. So I don't buy the sharps, the guys in Vegas, all of this. Like I know more than you. Hogwash. That is gambling. I just have fun doing it. I bet very small amounts. And here's the thing for me. If I bet even more than even a couple dollars, I don't like it. I don't like the losing part way more than I enjoy the winning. And it frustrates me. I turn off the game. So I can never bet much more than a couple dollars on a game if I'm going to anyway. So that's all that. But I think overall you're right. It just comes down to now if you're having fun and you enjoy it and it is adding to your experience, well then continue on. But it's really there's very few people that I think can do it like that. So I think it's mostly a waste. I'm with you on that. Andre says all money made in the tournament for me has been on Illinois. Well, I bet every single game yesterday, but I had to, use all of the fan money that I had. Talking chips. I had shrimp cocktail last night. Man, it was perfect. Get some of that. What's that place called in Indy? The steakhouse. They sell their own. They sell the cocktail sauce. And it's got tons of horseradish. And the first time you eat it, your mouth is on fire and you think, oh my God, but you get used to it. And it's so good. Lemon, shrimp cocktail, you're all set. You're good to go. There's a good question. How did Acuff not get recruited by any team from the state of Michigan? Acuff did get recruited. Michigan wanted Acuff. I would assume that Tom Izzo wanted Acuff. Acuff wanted big money. He was going to go to big money, and he was going to go to, Calipari. You want to call him a crook or sleazy. It's true. But he's also very good at getting players to the NBA, in particular point guard. So a point guard and Calipari and probably the most money. I just want to guess. I don't know. People say all kinds of things, but if I could bet on it, I would bet that Acuff got the most money from Arkansas. Michigan wanted him. I saw someone saying, "Oh, Michigan took McKinney over Acuff." That's not true. They wanted both. But I think Acuff, whatever Michigan would say, hey, here's a $500,000. And he's like, no, I want $2 million or something, whatever he got. Boozer twins are lab-grown babies. No, it's, Carlos. I think Carlos Boozer and his wife, they seem to be, I was going to say great parents. That's what they seem like. They are at every game. They're omnipresent. They're in the front row. And it's been that way. And so they've got their two twins. It must be awesome for them. Meanwhile, for everyone else, if I watch a Duke game, I get that they're going to, show Carlos Boozer and that interesting beard that he's always had. So I'm going to see that. And, Mrs. Boozer, I don't mind seeing video of her. She's going to be there. But what I don't like is that when they go to a commercial every 4 minutes, now I've got to see the Boozers on every other commercial. I almost see them as much as, Charles Barkley and Sam Jackson and the commercials that they have. I don't need the insurance with these two guys standing in there. It's not a very entertaining commercial. I don't like it. And I don't like the one where they're just sitting there with their dad, hey, here's the phone. Give me a little bit more entertainment. I don't like any of the commercials. I watched all of them. The one I like the least, and I think it's another insurance one. They've got all these people that I like in the commercial, and they're all bad. Whoever, Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Bills, his wife, I forget her name, but she's beautiful. She's like one of the most beautiful women in the. So they have her, and she couldn't be any less of an impact in a commercial. Her lines are stale. She's wearing this big coat, jean coat in it. She does nothing to show any of her of her beauty, whether it's just the acting or wearing a cool outfit. Nothing. She's terrible. And then is it Peel? I don't know, the comedian in there that plays the substitute teacher. He's very funny. He's stupid. I think the other guy, he's a comedian too. He's terrible. And then they're driving in a car with John Bon Jovi, who I like. And then he's acting stupid by just driving in the car while they sing one of his songs. If they would have run that past me, I would have said, this is a terrible, why? Even my man who's made himself famous in that insurance, he's bad in that one. He's just as bad in the Boozer one. So there's been a fail on the commercials on that. Sometimes if you make one so bad, it ends up being good. They're not that bad. There's just nothing. Makes me feel like if I had that insurance, I would cancel it. Made me feel like if I had that phone, I'd get rid of it. Because I don't like their commercials, if that's what they're coming up with. Viscount wants to know the over and under on coin purse kicks Fears against UConn. Well, since it's not Michigan or the Big Ten, Fears has been on the straight and narrow here for a while. I think that he's righted the ship, apparently. So I would put the donkey kick at 0.5. But I think I would bet the under here. So he wasn't hardwired to be real dirty. He's doing it on purpose. Tripping dudes, tripping yaks, kicking Cadeau. Next game against Minnesota because apparently, he didn't like everybody calling him a white or a black Grayson Allen. So then he donkey kicked the next one. And of course he does it against Michigan. So, but he's righted the ship so far when it comes down to it. So far. What do we have here? Ferris is saying, I've learned a skill. YouTubing. Bet on himself. Very successful. He has bet on something he can control. Do that. Over gambling? Yeah. Jack Ivankovic will perform better than Eric Portillo in the Frozen Four. I like it. That's not even a hot take. Yeah, Acuff wanted big money. Andres is saying all the advantage players that bet on sports don't bet popular mainstream things. They find obscure edges. All the advantaged players. Maybe. I always thought that if you were going to win, that you're probably only betting a handful of times all year long because there's not that many edges out there with everything that's going on. I used to think that for sure in football, that there might be 5 games all year long that you're thinking, now this is the one. Sometimes you feel like that every week, like, oh, I love this game. All right, you can't love every game. That's when you know. I got a lot of friends. My dad was a big guy. He loved every game. Uh, all kinds of people that I got the edge. I know everything. I was, and then you're betting because you feel like the line is a half point off or one and a half off. Doesn't seem like that much of an incredible edge to me when most of these games come down to. That's the one part, and I'll just stick with football, but it can be applied to any of them. Football, you have all these people, all this. I've put all of this work into it. The edge, I'm a sharp. I put all the sharp money went on this, but you get into the fourth quarter and it's coming down to a drop, a kick, a turnover. It's complete. Mostly luck. You couldn't have known that guy was going to drop a first down and the ball was going to go over. So I think that's it. I think that's what it comes down to. I'm taking a break on talking about the Lions winning the Super Bowl or the Browns. I don't see either of those teams. Although the Lions are a lot closer. I hope so. But I don't feel like the Browns are close at all. I mean, the Browns don't have a quarterback. The Lions do. So there it is. Rojamus Prime loves Stephen A's. Michigan is the weakest 1 seed and will disappoint you. Take. If don't get upset at Stephen A. He is going to have an opinion on every single thing that comes down the pike in sports. And here's the news: you can't really know that much about everything. So if Stephen A. Smith says something about football, I'm not really interested in what he has to say. I mean, he's going to have fun. He can put his cowboy hat on and, say, fun things, act goofy. If he says anything about college basketball, I'm not listening. If he wants to say something about the pros, that's his thing. And for about 5-10 minutes, I really like him. That's interesting. He's entertaining. But then that's it. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready to move on. He doesn't know anything about college basketball. That's it. The part about Mara being dirty. Mara is a marginally dirty player. Picks up a lot of tees. He had a couple flagrants. I don't know. I say a couple. The one I remember where he came down with his elbow was against Northwestern. Got the guy pretty good right between the eyes. I mean, so, that's getting close to where you're a dirty player. Are flagrants and, tease part of the game? I think so. This is where state fans don't understand it. They want to lump Mara and Fears in together. And I get that because there's some tease and there's some flagrants. But I don't think that Fears has put himself and is thinking, oh, I'm so smart that instead of punching somebody in the face, because that's an automatic ejection if you punch somebody in the face. Everyone knows that. But I guess kicking somebody between the legs, I have not read the exact rules on how that is. If he would have got caught tripping, that's there's degrees, just like there's flagrant ones and flagrant twos. There's degrees of dirtiness. And trying to trip someone is dirty. Kicking somebody between the legs, it's spitting on someone, kicking them between the legs, tripping. Like those 3 are 3 of the dirtiest, nasty things you could do. I would rather have somebody try to throw a punch at my face than kick me between the legs or trip me or spit on me. And Fears does 2 out of those 3. So yeah, and Mara, and I would say to his defense, yeah, it's flagrant, it's kind of dirty, borderline, whatever else. When but if somebody's jumping into you and you're trying to block them, that can happen. Straight up tripping somebody or kicking them in that's dirty. State fans know it. Tom Izzo knows it. I am rooting for St. John's. I like Rick Pitino. I've always liked Rick Pitino. I like how his teams play. I like how he coaches. I didn't want him to beat Michigan, obviously, but I like Pitino. That's it. Yeah, I'm not going to get my vote. Talking about Stephen A. We're getting into politics. Got one more about a die. A die is also huge. So calls go against him more due to sympathy of big guy versus little guy. I think there's some of that. A big players. Shaq was the most difficult player to officiate because almost every time you feel like you could call a charge or a flagrant on him, or you should be calling fouls, on the opponent almost every single time. The bigger you are, the more difficult it is. Remember Zach Eady? He was a very difficult player to officiate. It's the same thing with Mara. So I'm with you on that because of his size. I don't know, gas, is it $4 again? It's pretty crazy. He had to vacate the Michigan win. I don't know what we're talking about there. So there it is. All right. Well, I'll take a last lap on the feedback, but I did want to give some thoughts on a Michigan legend passing away at 96 years old. I have a photo of Jerry Hanlon, the former Michigan coach, up on the screen. And Jerry passed away this weekend, 96 years old. What a life for Jerry. Jerry played football at Miami of Ohio for Ara Parsegian. And then he coached at Miami with Bo for a couple years before coming to Ann Arbor in 69 with Bo. He was Bo's right-hand man. In 95 was the first year that I had a Michigan press pass. I sat next to Jerry Hanlon for the entire year of 95. That was a great treat. And then Jerry, when I did radio in Ann Arbor, he was the football analyst for the 11 years that I was there. Many shows, whether I was doing it or someone else, Jerry was there talking Michigan football. I learned a lot from him. And Jerry was, he was fiery, offensive line coach and all this, but he was like a big teddy bear. You wanted to always hug him. I remember saying that I wanted to design a Jerry Hanlon doll. With a little drawstring, probably said "Go Blue." He just a great Michigan guy. That's for sure. Loved Michigan, loved his family, loved his wife, and he'll be missed. He was a great one. You ever hear any of the former players talk about him? They all talk in great reverence about Jerry Hanlon, and he deserved all of that. Loved it. Last time I saw Jerry was 2016. I filled in on the Michigan Network pregame. Michigan was playing Colorado, and Jerry was on that pregame, and it was great being able to work with him that last time back in 2016. I thought that I was going to run into Coach Hanlon this summer. I went to the 1976 Orange Bowl Michigan football reunion. And when I got there, right up front by the tent, there was a sign that said reserved for Jerry Hanlon. And I thought, wow, Jerry Hanlon's coming to this '76 Orange Bowl reunion. I can't wait. Jerry did not make it to the reunion there, but he did make it to another reunion. I don't know which one, if it was the 80, maybe 1980, something like that. I remember Bruce Motti, who was the sports info director, talking with him this fall, talking with him about Jerry. He would go over and see Jerry all the time. He would say, Red Berenson comes over there with him. And then he said they went to a reunion with, Jerry was able to make that one. So that's good. So loved him, loved everything about him. And he'll be missed for sure. Coach Hanlon from the cradle of coaches at Miami U. So that's it. Okay. I was looking at some last ones on the feedback, but it's gone political over there. It's okay. It happens. If you would like to continue the Michigan conversation, head on over to the Maize and Blue Review. And if you are not a member, what is wrong with you? Sign up. Take your Michigan fandom to the next level. What's going on at practice? I mean, that's what you want to know. It's there. I love it. So we will see you over at the Maize and Blue Review. Go to on3.com, or you go to the Maize and Blue Review. It directs you over there, and you're in. You get to see that. You get to see the content immediately. Instant access when you get in there. So that's pretty awesome. I can't wait to see you over there. I'll be back here on Wednesday. I am going to dog sit my mom's dog. That's it. That's the end of the show. It's true. Everybody have a great day.